Hey folks, this is Gray here, and if you're looking for a small, compact, entry-level, portable power station, truly portable, then you should watch this video. All right, folks, we're going to be talking about the EcoFlow River 3. Man, have they shrunk this thing down. Technology seems to kind of just every year just surprise me in regards to what they're doing with these power stations. Now this, as you can see, is truly a portable power station, and it packs a punch. So in this video, we're going to look at the River 3, its capabilities, and what it means for you, and what would this be used for emergency preparedness. We'll go over the specifications, we'll look at all the inputs and outputs, and talk about all that stuff like that on the back bench. But I think this is going to work really good for people who are trying to get into the power station game, who don't have a lot of money to spend, especially this thing is on sale for a pretty low price, which I'll talk about here in a few. But 300 watts, continuous, 600 watts X boost, packed into this little thing, man. And from my perspective, I'm looking at this as either something that's definitely on the go for traveling, for in the vehicle, and kind of stuff like that, or just having it at home in a bedroom on top of, let's say, a nightstand and something like that to power small electronics, maybe a light and so on and so forth. I think where this thing is going to stand out most for a lot of folks out there in regards to emergency preparedness is stuff like your CPAP machines, things that are kind of like in that 300 watt range area. And I think this is going to function very well for you in regard to that aspect. All right, so before I get into the nitty gritty of the EcoFlow River 3 portable power station, truly portable, I want to just touch on CPAPs, because this is a question that I get asked a lot in the comment sections and emails, or like, hey Gray, you know, my husband or my wife or my grandmother or somebody has a CPAP machine. What kind of power station can I use that's affordable but also portable, like truly portable? So I wrote down some information here in regards to a CPAP machine. Some folks may not be familiar with that, but it's a continuous positive airway pressure machine. And some folks truly need this. Most machines typically run between 30 to 60 watts unless they have a humidifier on them, and it can run up to about 90 watts. So what does that translate into watt hours specifically? And I'm kind of honing down on this. And again, so basically a CPAP without a humidifier, again, runs to roughly about 30 to 60 watts per hour. But like I said, some can use up to 100 watts. So if your typical machine is running for an 8-hour period and you do the math or so, that's going to roughly be about 240 watts. I hope I got that one right. Up to about 800 watts in an 8-hour period. So when you're looking at a machine, depending on the type of CPAP your machine, because there's so many variations of these CPAPs out there, you want to make sure that you get a machine that's going to work for you and give you the time that you need. Now, there's a portable CPAP machines that are, they call them travel CPAPs, that only range from like 10 to 15 to max 20 watts. So just imagine, you know, you have something as portable as this with you and with your portable CPAP machine, and you can see how that can be beneficial to having that on you and taking it with you. Let's say if you get in a situation where you have to go evac to a hurricane shelter or something to that extent, because here in Florida, I think, yeah, here in about 12 hours, I'm assuming, the hurricane's going to hit the armpit of Florida, as they like to call it. And they say it could be up to a Cat 3, Cat 2, Cat 3, somewhere along those lines. But someone out there is probably in a situation where they don't have something like this, and it could be truly beneficial to them if they get pushed out into a situation where they're going to need to take their CPAP machine with them. And some places just don't have the facilities all set up for people's medical equipment. Anyways, that's my, I guess you want to call it a rant on CPAP machines. I just wanted to throw that information out there before we get into the logistics of the EcoFlow River 3. So let's jump into the specifications. All right, so the specifications of the EcoFlow River 3 are going to be 245 watt-hour capacity, 300 watts rated output power with the 600 watt X boost technology built into a system like this. They also have a special technology built into this system. It's called the 2X runtime. Basically, any appliances that you happen to use that are less than 100 watts, let's say like small electronics, laptops, phones, some lights, maybe small little tiny fans, things of that nature that most people would use in an emergency to kind of keep things going, to, you know, in a small room or whatnot. This can actually extend that life. You know, most little power stations roughly about this size will run about 15 to 16 hours. This will actually push that envelope to about 30 to 32 hours, which I thought was fantastic. And again, 30% smaller than most of the units of this capability out there on the market. I also thought it was really great that EcoFlow decided to implement their BMS system as well as in there to protect you and the battery and everything that's inside the unit. I also like that they added the uninterruptible power supply, less than 20 milliseconds roughly, from if you lose grid power to the machine kicking on. So 20 milliseconds is very, very fast. Inside the unit, it is IP54 rated, so I thought that was really neat. Basically, the battery pack in there is an IP54 rated battery pack, so it can withstand, all the different elements that may arise. And I always tell people, if you want to know IP ratings, there's a list. You go online, you can see the list of what IP6, IP this rating is, IP that rating is. I don't want to dive too deep into it and whatnot. But those are some of the key specifications that I wanted to talk about. And I know someone may ask me, Grey, well, what's the weight of this thing? It's only 7.8 pounds. But anyways, it is a lithium iron phosphate battery that has 3,000 cycles on there. Let's go to the back bench and look at the inputs and outputs, do a little testing on the unit, and then we'll wrap it up with me and my final thoughts. All right, folks, so let's kind of take a look at the River 3's inputs and outputs. This is the front of the unit right here. It does have a nice, crisp, clear screen, which is always a plus, easily to read. You have your inputs, your outputs, your percentage of your battery, and how many hours you have left depending on what you're powering. So let's kind of touch on these guys here, and let me get a little pen or something. All right, so let's talk about our AC outputs. And basically, to turn this on, you're just going to push this button right here, and that's going to activate that section right there. You have a 3-prong and a 2-prong outlet. So you have a total of 2 AC outlets. And again, they're rated at 300 watts with a surge of 600 watts. But you can use the X-Boost technology through the EcoFlow app. And you can turn that on so that you can push this a little bit harder than 300 watts, because there's certain appliances, let's say like a hair dryer or something like that, when you turn it on, it's going to have just a huge peak, and then it'll come back down and kind of, find a middle ground where it's going to sit at and then run, more effectively. But anyway, so that's what you have there. And again, with the other side, we're going to move, before we hit the center part, right here, we'll turn that one on, and that's going to have your standard, let's see if I can pop this open for you. And that's going to have your standard car adapter there. And basically this outlet is a 12.6 volt, 10 amp, 126 watt outlet. So what I mean by that is you'll have some sort of connector like this that'll plug into that, just to kind of give you an idea. And, some things run on a DC. You'll have an outlet like this that goes to a barrel connector, I think it's called a 5551 or something like that. Barrel connector that comes off there to power DC appliances or products or whatnot. Anyways, let's move over to the 2 USB-As right here. We got 2 of those right here, which are always nice to have multiples, especially on a smaller unit like that. And these 2 USB-As here on each side, they're going to be rated at 5 volts to 2.4 amps, 12 max per port, for a total of 24 watts. So you can run 12 volts here and 12 volts here, and that's going to give you a total of 24 watts. Now let's move to the USB-C, which is a 100 watt output, which is, I always stress I'd like to see 100 watts, because there's 40s and 60s out there, but the 100 watt to me should be the go-to. It should be at least the standard when it comes to most of these power stations. So in regards to that, this has a bunch of variations depending on what you're going to be using. Let's say if anywhere from 5, 9, 12, to 15 watts, you're going to get about a 3 amp max output on that. But you can run also a 20 volt, 5 amp max at 100 watts. Hopefully that translates into something that makes sense. I know sometimes these numbers can be a bit confusing, but just remember, 100 watts and, the amperage, I'm not an electrician, you're not an electrician, at least, I'm pretty sure someone out there watching this is an electrician, and will correct me down in the comments, which is appreciated. But just kind of get a generalized idea that you have these inputs here, your ACs, your USB-As, your Type-Cs, and your DCs. All right, so let's turn this thing to the side and look at the input real quick so you can see how to charge this thing. All right, folks, I guess I could mention it, that you have your heat exchangers or your vents here that kind of, keeps this thing cool. There's one on each side. But we'll go ahead and pull this lip down so that you can kind of see in here. You have your AC input, and then of course you have your other input. Basically, this is going to be, so let's say you're going to charge this via vehicle. Let me see if I can push this thing back a little bit to kind of get this in here. And if you see this connector, which the unit does come with in the package, this is going to connect right here. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in so you can kind of see how it sits in there. If I get it plugged in the correct way, there we go. And then you're going to use this to plug this into your vehicle here, and that's going to be your DC charging from your vehicle. Now, using your vehicle, your car, basically charging method, you can get about 100 watts out of this. It ranges from 11 to 30 volts, and it'll charge this unit from 0 to 100% in about 2.8 hours. Of course, there's a lot faster ways to charge that, which is the AC input. So with the AC input, and I'll show you, I was charging this earlier and took some video shots of this. As you can see on the screen, I got it up well up to over 300 watts of input, because it actually says the AC input can run about 320 watts from 0 to 100% in 60 minutes, which is very, very great for even a small unit like this, because it's charging it super, super fast. At least from my perspective, to get this from 0 to 100% within an hour, it's awesome. And like I said, 320 watts. I got about 320 to 325. It fluctuated a bit. I don't know when you saw that on the screen there, but that's the other way to charge it. Now, of course, you can also use a solar input, which is the same connection that you're going to use here. And depending what type of, solar panel that you're going to use for that, it can withstand up to 110 watts input in here. And if you're running at 110 watts in a bright, sunny, awesome, perfect day, it'll charge with from 0 to 100% in about 2.6 hours, which is not too bad. But of course, you have to look at the efficiency of the solar panel you're using. I do like EcoFlow's bifacial solar panels because I can get the max input in there, but this is kind of not rated for that, because that one kind of pushes about 220 watts. So make sure that you kind of pay attention to what you're inputting in this. You want basically, I would say, at least a 100-watt solar panel. You can use a 45 watt that comes with it, but it's going to take a lot longer to charge that. Now, you can also charge this via generator input. Again, it's basically along the same sides of using an AC input here at 320 watts, and roughly you can charge that for an hour. So if you have something in combination with this from your, let's say you have a dual fuel or tri-fuel generator and you want to just power this up real quick, you can charge this within 60 minutes. And just real quick to show you the other side, that was the fan in there. I don't know if you can see that little fan in there, which is going to pull air through and keep this thing cool all the way around. But as I switch this thing around, basically, it's a very, very simple unit, folks. If you're, someone who's always been, like, let's say, a little bit scared of using a portable power station, they look too complicated, this is going to be the most simplest entry-level thing that you can possibly buy. I know I get a lot of technical jargon when I'm talking about these things like this, but if you start something like this, where you're not going to be spending a ton of money, and you get used to this, most power stations work in the same manner. So like I said, for those folks that are just thinking about getting into something like this, for the price point that you can pick something like this up for, which to me is extremely affordable, it's not bad. And like I said, once you learn and understand how this thing works, then you can decide further down the road if you want to spend the thousands of dollars on, say, something that's a 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, all up to 5 kilowatts, and the list goes on. All right, so let's do some testing on this unit here and see how it performs on some small electronics. I have a emergency light or my lantern. I have a radio that I'm going to use, comms basically. I have a small fan that I'll throw on here as well. All right, so now that I got everything plugged in, as you can see, this radio is only going to be pulling about 2 watts. So if you wanted to charge 2 radios, you're going to get about 4 watts out of it. I got this flashlight here charging, which is only pulling about 2 to 3 watts as well. And then I got one of my emergency lanterns that's charging as well. So I'm charging 3 different type of electronics, and basically I think they all encompass emergency preparedness, because you have comms, you have light, portable light like the flashlight, then you have, let's say, a lantern for a room. I'm charging 3 of these things at the same time, and they're only pulling about 18 watts. And if I had to run this continuously from what I'm reading off the device itself, I could get 10 hours of charging, but it won't take that long, because all this stuff will be charged probably within an hour. But just kind of give you a gauge of the idea of how something like this will work using these small electronics and charging, a lot of these other different things, that are pertain to emergency preparedness, be it a hurricane, a blizzard, some sort of storm where you have a power outage and you're trying to keep your small electronics charged. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead, and I got like this little fan here that I use in an office setting or whatnot. My daughter uses a couple of variations of stuff in her room because some of the bigger fans just make too much noise. She likes a light noise, but having some breeze while she sleeps. Currently, we're at 17 watts charging the 3 products that I have not disconnected from here. I'll go ahead and turn this on, and the fan may make some noise, but, we're doing some testing here. In regards to that, the fan is kicking on. I do have the fan in high mode, and we'll see where that draws. I don't know if you guys can see that there. We are at 53 watts, and that's not too bad at all. So I'm charging all my electronics because, a storm has knocked out the power. And so I'm charging everything up. Let's say I forgot to charge all these devices and I want to get them charged because this might be a prolonged situation where it might last into the evening or the next day. So I want to make sure I have lights and comms and stuff like that. And I want to keep cool, so I have this fan going. We're pulling a total of 53 watts out of the machine right now. We have a 95% battery, and if I continued at this rate, I'd have at least 4 hours of time to get all this stuff done. That being said, if I decided these things are now fully charged and I wanted to disconnect, these things because they're all charged up and whatnot, I pull those out, and let me touch that so the screen comes back on. I should set it in the app. You can set it in the app so it doesn't time out on you. But as you can see there, now I've gotten 5 hours pulling 37 watts with a 95% battery, so I'll have at least some air going. In a stagnant place like Florida, you gotta need some cool air in the home because things get hot quick because of the humidity and heat. But that would give me at least 5 hours to cool off. Like I said, I focused on the CPAP machine. I personally don't own a CPAP machine. Maybe I should buy one for demonstration purposes and see how well they do against these machines. But if you are a person out there that owns an EcoFlow, a smaller variation of this, and also use it for a CPAP machine, can you please put that down in the description and let us know how well that works out for you? How long do you get out of the machine, which machine you have, and just a little bit of information regards that in case other folks are kind of looking for that information because I can't provide that, being that I don't have one. Anyways, I think that's enough for the testing. Again, if there's something else you always want to see, just please let me know. Especially when it comes to a small unit like this. If you have any great ideas, like suggestions, please put that down in the comments. All right, folks, so that's going to wrap up my overview and review of the EcoFlow River 3. Like I said, I think it's quite impressive for what you get. So now let's talk about the price. Well, they're going to have it on sale because between now and the Prime Days and all that stuff that's coming up over the next couple of weeks, they had this on sale for $169. To me, that is a great deal. And it also comes with a free waterproof bag, a little bag. I don't have it, but they have a little waterproof bag. You can click on the link down below. I think I might have a discount code as well, so you can save even more money off that. But it's like a little bag that it kind of sits in. You can throw your power plugs and whatnot in there, and it's a waterproof bag. Now, if you want to go a little further than that, you can buy the $200 variation of it, which still comes with a bag. But it also comes with a 45 watt solar panel, a foldable one that you can kind of keep in that bag with this to be totally, portable in regards to like having an option to charge this via solar. Outside of that, folks, if you got any value or entertainment or just enjoy the video as well, if you just like to support the channel, hit that thumbs up button. And of course, if you're new here, subscribe, take a look at the rest of the channel. We do lots of different things on the channel, from gardening to gear reviews to a lot of emergency preparedness type of topics as well. Other than that, folks, remember, you are not alone. This is GreyMan. I'm out. I'll see you guys in a rebound. God bless all you amazing people out there. And again, thank you for taking time to watch this video.